Some of the most terrifying monsters in history didn't walk the land. They dominated the ancient oceans, outshining even the dinosaurs in sheer ferocity. Millions of years ago, Earth's seas were teeming with bizarre and deadly creatures that seem almost unimaginable today. These weren't ordinary marine animals. They were prehistoric predators built for the hunt. Join us as we journey back in time to discover 20 of the most fearsome prehistoric sea creatures ever revealed by science. Number 20. Shastasaurus Senensis. The Shastasaurus Senensis, which I probably mispronounced, just happens to be one of the largest marine reptiles that was ever discovered. It belonged to a group of Ichthyossaurs that lived during the Triassic period, about 210 million years ago. This enormous creature was named from fossils that were found in British Columbia, Canada, measuring an astonishing 69 feet in length, comparable in size to today's largest whales. However, before you go running and screaming, unlike other Ichthyosaurs, this one was not a fierce predator but rather a gentle giant. It had a narrow and streamlined body with very small flippers, indicating it was built for slow cruising rather than hunting at high speed. Its skull was short and toothless, another surefire sign it wasn't the fiercest predator, and that skull was specialized for suction feeding, allowing it to consume small prey like fish and squid. Its huge tongue helped with suction, gathering food more efficiently. Despite its massive size, this sea monster had a surprisingly slender build compared to its later Jurassic relatives. The trend at the time, in evolutionary terms, was toward gigantism. Other species in the Ichthyosaur family also grew to colossal sizes, but it didn't do them much good in the end. These water beasts were extinct by the close of the Triassic period. Number 19. Livatan. Next up, we have the Livatan. This mighty colossus is basically what can only be described as a prehistoric whale. The ancient and enormous creature was absolutely vast. To explain just how big it was, imagine a mouthful of interlocking teeth, each measuring between 1 and 1.5 feet long. Yes, each tooth alone was a foot long. These whales were so big that, other than the Megalodon, there was nothing even remotely comparable in size during the era in which they ruled the oceans. The Livatan seems to have been the apex predator of the entire Miocene epoch. The trouble, however, is that there is a lot of missing information about these amazing creatures. Only one partially preserved jaw and skull, as well as a bunch of teeth, have been unearthed, so it's only with modern technology that we've been able to reconstruct what this massive sea monster might have looked like. Much of the gap in understanding has been filled in using its closest living relative, the sperm whale. Our knowledge of modern sperm whales has added a lot to our understanding of these prehistoric creatures. And in case you hadn't connected the dots yet, there's a biblical sea monster called the Leviathan, as well as similar terrible sea monsters in other mythologies throughout history. The name Livatan naturally comes from that word, generally used to denote a massive sea monster, usually a whale of some sort, so it's the obvious choice for this dino whale creature. As for size, these prehistoric sea monsters were not dissimilar to modern sperm whales, likely measuring between 44 to 57 feet in length and weighing around 60+ tons. They ate a diet of baleen whales, sharks, and other marine creatures near the water's surface. They lived between 9.9 and 8.9 million years ago. Number 18. Tully Monster. The Tully Monster is a peculiar fossil discovered in 1958 by Francis Tully, hence the name, in the Mason Creek fossil beds of Illinois. The fossil is around 300 million years old and has an especially weird appearance, with stalked eyes, a long appendage with teeth at the end, and a rudimentary backbone. This oddity has left scientists scratching their heads for decades on how to classify it. In 2016, a major study used advanced X-ray techniques and synchrotron imaging to analyze thousands of Tully Monster specimens. The research concluded that it was a vertebrate closely related to jawless fish like the lamprey, due to features like a notochord and gills. The sea lamprey is mostly found in the northern Atlantic Ocean, as well as the Mediterranean, Baltic, and Adriatic seas. They're also an invasive species in the Great Lakes. These horrors aren't fussy about whether they live in saltwater or freshwater and can pop up almost anywhere, especially in your nightmares. Lampreys lay eggs in rivers and streams. The eggs hatch into larvae, which then transform into parasites that travel to lakes. They attach themselves to other fish to feed, sucking out their blood for 12 to 20 months until they're ready to spawn, repeating this cycle over about 9 years. How delightful! The lamprey has rows upon rows of teeth and a gross, sucking tongue-like structure to latch onto their host's flesh, draining blood and fluids. Fish are often caught with telltale circular holes from lamprey attacks or occasionally with the parasites still attached. However, newer studies have challenged this classification, and the Tully Monster may not fit neatly into vertebrate or invertebrate categories, leaving its true identity still partly a mystery. Number 17. Tannistrophus. The Tannistrophus is an extinct reptile that lived during the Middle Triassic period around 242 million years ago, so Not all that recently. It belongs to a group of reptiles known as Proterosaurs, distant relatives of modern lizards and snakes. This dinosaur was a super weird-looking creature with a ridiculously long neck. Like, the thing was basically all neck and not much else. In fact, its neck made up more than half of its total length. These crazy long necks could reach 10 to 15 feet, all on top of a skinny little body and gangly legs. Not only was the neck long, but it was also super flexible, with loads of tiny vertebrae allowing a wide range of movement. While it's always hard to be sure, scientists think this neck helped the dinosaur catch fish in shallow waters. They believe Tannistrophus was likely a semi-aquatic carnivore, but the exact purpose of its neck remains debated. Some researchers suggest it may have been a specialized filter feeder or used to reach aquatic vegetation. Fossils have been found in Europe, the Middle East, and North America. Number 16. Mosasaurs. The mosasaurs were swimming in Earth's oceans between 72 to 66 million years ago. They were not unlike modern gharials, with long, narrow snouts and rows of teeth. These creatures are relatives of crocodiles and alligators, and therefore among the best animals ever naturally. Now, it turns out these mosasaurs lived at a time when the planet had accidentally outdone itself. The oceans were so overcrowded with creatures that they were literally suffering from competition. This was an era with so many massive sea predators that they were all fighting for food, which is why many megapredators died out. There simply weren't enough resources. The mosasaur, with its long snout, seems to have adapted to a specific predatory niche. Scientists believe they were relatively flexible hunters, choosing prey based on availability. But they've still been dead for an awfully long time to be considered new in any sense. Now it's time for today's topic. A pilot flying over a remote beach near New Zealand's South Island captured a chilling scene. A massive shark, already dead, washed up on the shore. The creature's enormous size and unusual features have left scientists and locals in shock. Authorities quickly cordoned off the area, isolating the beach from the public as experts rushed to examine the mysterious find. The shark, estimated to be over 60 feet long, has a body unlike any modern species. Its jagged teeth, scarred skin, and massive fins suggest it could be a relic of a prehistoric era or a mutant anomaly. This is not like any shark we've seen in modern waters, one marine biologist stated. Its size and features are completely unprecedented. What's even more baffling is the cause of death. The shark's body shows no clear signs of injury or illness, leaving scientists puzzled. Some speculate it could have been killed by an even larger predator, while others believe it might have succumbed to deep-sea environmental changes. The discovery has sparked panic among locals, with many fearing what else might be lurking in the ocean. For now, the massive shark remains a mystery, raising more questions than answers about the secrets of the deep. Number 15. Stethacanthus. Stethacanthus was an ancient shark-like creature that lived roughly 390 to 320 million years ago. This scary sea monster had a super weird appearance. Its spine brush complex on its back looked like an ironing board. Scientists think this odd structure may have played a role in mating, perhaps helping males attach to females. This feature is only found in male Stethacanthus, so it might have just been a boasting display, who knows? Though Stethacanthus was small, only 2 to 3 feet long, it was still a dangerous predator. Its bizarre anatomy has fascinated scientists since its discovery in Europe and North America in the late 19th century. Initially, the ironing board was mistaken for a fin, but further studies confirmed it was a unique feature. Whether lugging around the structure slowed it down or not, Stethacanthus likely spent much of its time near the seafloor, hunting slower prey. You probably would too if you had to carry around a piece of furniture all day. Number 14. Chronosaurus. Up next is the Chronosaurus, an enormous marine reptile from the early Cretaceous period. These giants measured 33 to 39 feet in length and were named after the Greek titan Kronos. Fitting, given their size and ferocity, much like the mythological figure who devoured his own offspring. Fossils show it had a fierce jaw full of teeth perfect for grabbing and crushing prey, mostly other marine reptiles like Plesiosaurs and sea turtles. Fossilized bite marks on other marine animals are believed to be from Chronosaurus. This was a terrifying sea monster. Fossils have been found in Australia and Colombia, both regions covered by shallow seas 100 million years ago. The species was formally named in the 1920s. Number 13. Nthosaurus. The Nthosaurus was a marine reptile that lived in shallow, warm seas and coastlines across what is now Europe, Asia, and Africa during the Triassic period, 250 to 200 million years ago. It had an elongated body and webbed limbs, allowing it to swim and possibly spend time on land like modern seals. This predator had a narrow head full of sharp teeth, making it highly efficient at hunting fish, squid, and other sea-dwelling reptiles. Its hunting strategy involved gripping prey with its teeth and shaking violently to break it into smaller, swallowable pieces. Gruesome, right? Fossils have been found from Germany to China, and over a dozen species have been identified. Number 12. Megalodon. Are you scared of sharks? You might want to shut your eyes. The Megalodon was bigger and badder than any shark today, the most enormous shark ever, and one of the largest fish in history. Estimates put it at 50 to 60 feet long, 3 times the size of a great white, with 276 teeth, each about 7 inches long. The name Megalodon means large tooth, so yeah, it's fitting. I, for one, am relieved these sea monsters are extinct. I wouldn't fancy a swim with them around. But wait, some people believe they might not be 100% extinct. Has anyone checked all the oceans? Probably not. For now, let's just think of rainbows and unicorns next time we're in the water. Number 11. Alasmosaurus. Alasmosaurus was a marine reptile from the late Cretaceous period, standing out even among Plesiosaurs for its insanely long neck. With 71 vertebrae, its neck was nearly half its body length. Despite this, it was a streamlined swimmer using 4 flippers to navigate. Its sharp teeth and elongated neck allowed it to stealthily hunt schools of fish. Though massive, about 50 feet long, it was dwarfed by other marine giants like Ichthyossaurs. Alasmosaurus was part of the infamous 19th century bone wars between paleontologists Cope and Marsh. Cope famously placed its head on the wrong end of the skeleton, a mistake Marsh happily pointed out, deepening their rivalry. Number 10. Tyosaurus. Tyosaurus was one of the largest and most fearsome marine predators of the late Cretaceous period, although we weren't really there, so maybe we're all just being a little bit judgy. This big old reptile was charging about in the seas around 85 to 80 million years ago as part of the Mosasaur family, and this massive creature could grow up to 45 feet long. Its habitat was in the western interior seaway, which was a humongous, shallow sea that once split what's now North America into 2. It had a super hydrodynamic body and extra powerful jaws that were lined with rows of sharp teeth, so it was capable of devouring just about anything from fish to other marine reptiles, including stuff as big as Plesiosaurs. That gives you a strong indication of just how scary they may have been. I suppose its tail was sort of similar to a shark's, and it gave the sea creature some extremely powerful propulsion through the water, which meant that it had the very handy ability to ambush prey with only a few swift bursts of speed. Some fossilized stomach contents have revealed the remains of birds, turtles, and even other mosasaurs, showing just how varied and ruthless its diet could be. There are even ancient depictions and fossil finds that suggest Tyosaurus may have occasionally launched itself out of the water, or at least lunged at the surface, in pursuit of prey. Its skull alone could be over 6 feet long, packed with teeth that curved backward to keep struggling victims from escaping. If you were swimming in those ancient seas, you'd definitely want to keep an eye out for a shadowy shape rocketing up from below. It's thought that the Tyosaurus became extinct around the same time as the ending of the Cretaceous period, which was a mass extinction event. Fossils have been found in places like Kansas, and this now dry region was once completely submerged underwater. Number 9. Dunkleosteus. This terrifying monster fish was swimming around during the late Devonian period, which was about 350 million years ago, so there probably aren't any of these predators left out there. But has anyone actually checked? The catchily named Dunkleosteus was a biter, but rather than a regular mouthful of teeth. However, this prehistoric water dweller had 2 long blades made of bone that would break their prey in half and chop neatly through their flesh. This big fat fish also had the strongest bite of any fish out there, even more powerful than our modern-day sharks. They had a bite force of an astonishing 8,000 pounds per square inch, which is 2.5 times nastier than even our biting champion crocodiles can manage today. When that was combined with this mega fish's ability to create enormously powerful suction simply by opening its mouth and sucking the prey inside, well, then it's easy to see what a deadly efficient top-tier predator that this creature really was. Some Dunkleosteus fossils have been found with armor plates bearing deep gouges, likely from brutal battles with their own kind. Imagine 2 of these armored giants clashing in the murky depths, bone blades scraping and jaws snapping, prehistoric underwater gladiators. Their bodies were covered in thick, interlocking plates, making them look like something out of a nightmare, part tank and part fish. Even their fossilized remains have inspired artists and monster movie creators, because honestly, who wouldn't be freaked out by a fish that could bite a shark in half? There were a bunch of fossilized evidence of the diet and behavior of this massive sea monster, and scientists believed that they would eat almost anything that came in their direction, which included each other. Yes, these psychos, as it turns out, were also cannibals. Number 8. Brontoscorpio. The Brontoscorpio was a species of ancient giant scorpion that lived during the early Devonian period about 416 to 412 million years ago. Its fossils, which mainly consist of a big old claw fragment, were unearthed in Worcester in the UK. This species was thought to have grown to a length of about 2.5 to 3 feet long, which, when you think about it, is unnecessarily large for a scorpion. Though it was technically a terrestrial beast, the Brontoscorpio seems to have spent a lot of its time in the water. This is probably because it would have struggled to support its massive body's weight on land. Imagine wading into a murky Devonian swamp and seeing a scorpion the size of a dog lurking beneath the surface. Definitely not something you'd want to step on. Some scientists think Brontoscorpio may have ambushed prey from the shadows, using its huge pincers to snatch up fish and other small creatures. Its stinger, likely as thick as a finger, could have delivered a seriously nasty jab to anything that got too close. The Devonian world was full of oversized arthropods, and Brontoscorpio was one of the most formidable among them. Gigantism was a real issue for creatures in this time period, and they had really tricky consequences like being unwieldy of course but also finding enough food for their own colossal size. Number 7. Pliosaurus. Pliosaurs were a group of large marine reptiles that were around 160 to 145 million years ago. During the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods, these super scary apex predators had utterly massive skulls, elongated bodies, and intensely powerful jaws which they had used to hunt large prey like fish, squid, and sometimes even other marine reptiles. They were perfectly adapted to their marine environment, and had streamlined bodies which allowed them to move easily through the water despite their size. Their terrifying mouths were equipped with large and conical teeth that were ideal for gripping and tearing at the flesh. Some fossilized pliosaur teeth are as long as bananas, and bite marks found on other marine reptiles show just how ferocious their attacks could be. There are even stories of pliosaur fossils being mistaken for dragon bones in ancient times, fueling legends of sea monsters. Scientists believe their sense of smell was so sharp, they could track wounded prey through murky waters with ease. Imagine the panic in the ancient seas when one of these giants appeared, its jaws wide and eyes locked on its next meal. They shared a general resemblance to Plesiosaurs, but they also had shorter necks and much larger and more scary-looking heads. Some species, like the one that was found in Norway, could reach lengths of up to 33 to 43 feet, meaning that they were amongst the largest carnivores of their time. Number 6. Plaadancha. Plaadancha were a group of marine reptiles that lived during the Middle to Late Triassic period, which was around about 246 to 229 million years ago. These creatures had bodies that were compact with short limbs and long tails, kind of like modern-day seals. One of their most distinctive features would be their broad, flat teeth, which were perfect for crushing their hard-shelled prey like mollusks as they evolved. These things crushing teeth were an integral part of their development. The earlier ones had 2 types of teeth, but later on they became more specialized and developed armor plates for protection, and even toothless beaks for digging into the sandy seafloor to find their food. Some placodonts looked almost like swimming turtles, with bony shells that would have made them tough targets for predators. Fossilized stomach contents show they could crunch through shells with ease, leaving behind piles of shattered debris. There's even evidence that some species may have lived in shallow lagoons, basking in the sun between hunting sessions. It's wild to think about these armored, beak-faced oddballs shuffling along the ancient seafloor, leaving trails in the sand as they searched for their next meal. Despite their adaptations, they were not as widespread in the fossil record, with their remains having mainly been found in Europe and parts of China. They are early types of marine reptiles, but were not the same as the plesiosaur. Number 5. Basilosaurus. The Basilosaurus is an ancient whale that lived around 40 to 34 million years ago during the late Eocene epoch. Even though its name means king lizard, it is actually not a reptile at all, but rather an early kind of whale, and was part of a family which included modern whales, dolphins, and porpoises. These extraordinary creatures could grow up to be about 65 feet long, and had a strange eel-like body, so they looked really different from modern whales. Its slender, elongated form likely allowed it to swim near the surface of ancient seas, where it would then wiggle like a giant sea serpent. This is all beginning to sound a bit like one of those monster sightings now, isn't it? Could it be the Loch Ness Monster? Well, anyway, the fossils of the Basilosaurus have been found in North America and as far away as Egypt and Jordan. Some scientists think Basilosaurus was a top predator, feasting on sharks, large fish, and even other whales, which makes it even more terrifying. Its tiny, almost useless hind limbs are a bizarre evolutionary leftover, hinting at its land-dwelling ancestors. Imagine seeing a creature that long and snake-like, thrashing at the surface, jaws snapping. No wonder early fossil hunters thought it was a sea serpent. There are even stories of sailors spinning wild tales after glimpsing its bones jutting from riverbanks, convinced they'd found proof of legendary monsters. And when it was first uncovered, the creature was misclassified as a reptile because it looked so much like a huge snake. Later research would show that it had more mammal stuff going on, especially its whale-like teeth. Now, weirdly, the fossils of the ancient whale were once used as foundations for homes and fireplace tools in southeastern United States, long before scientists recognized their significance, of course. Number 4. Ichthyossaurs. The ichthyosaur was a kind of fish-like reptile from about 150 million years ago. It means fish lizard. These prehistoric creatures were built for swimming. They had fast and streamlined bodies that evolved to make them super hunters. In the seas of the Jurassic period, these fish lizards lived in both shallow and deep waters, and had really long and narrow jaws that were stuffed full of loads of teeth that made them perfect for capturing and devouring their prey. They ate an entire massive combination of different animals, and were seemingly particularly partial to octopus, cuttlefish, and squid. Some fossilized ichthyosaurs have even been found with the remains of their last meal still preserved in their stomachs, giving us a snapshot of their ancient diet. Their enormous eyes, some as big as dinner plates, suggest they could see well in the dark depths, hunting where sunlight barely reached. There are even fossils showing ichthyosaurs giving birth to live young, frozen in time in the act of delivery, which is both fascinating and a little eerie. The more we learn about them, the more they seem like the ultimate Jurassic sea predators. The first discoveries of these prehistoric creatures was made back in the early 19th century. Complete skeletons were found in England, most famously by the fossil hunter Mary Anning. The examples that have been found show that the ichthyosaur could vary in size from just 3 feet in length to about 85 feet, and the creatures did bear some resemblance to modern dolphins, but there is no consensus on which way their evolution went, other than they evolved from some kind of land reptile that are unidentified and then returned to the water in a similar way of that to the ancestors of dolphins and whales. Number 3. Helicoprian. The scientists who have been trying to solve the puzzle of this bizarre creature known as the Helicoprian had been beavering away only to discover that some of the pieces were missing from the box, and they might never be able to see the entire picture. As frustrating as that might seem, it has made for some extremely creative and interesting interpretations based on the fragments of fossils that have been unearthed from this creature. The name Helicoprian means spiral saw, and that is the main chunk of fossil that they were working with. Paleontologists eventually deduced that the circular saw-like thing that they had discovered was most likely positioned in the mouth of this weird sea creature. For years, artists and scientists alike drew wild reconstructions, some imagining the spiral jutting out from the snout like a bizarre unicorn horn, while others pictured it coiled under the jaw. The mystery only deepened when CT scans revealed how the teeth might have rotated forward as the animal grew, creating a never-ending conveyor belt of razor-sharp edges. Some even theorized that Helicoprian used its spiral saw to slice through the tough shells of ancient cephalopods, making it a nightmare for anything with armor. The more they learned, the stranger this prehistoric predator seemed. They decided that it was what they called a whirl-toothed ratfish, or a sort of shark. It's believed that this mystery creature first appeared in the oceans of Earth about 280 million years ago, and hung around a while before finally going extinct sometime in the early Triassic period. Since no full-size complete skeletal fossils have ever been found, the idea of how this creature may have looked are all from the best informed imaginations. Do you have any ideas of where else this weird spiral saw might have been found and what purpose it served? Let us know all of your ideas in the comment section down below. Number 2. Plesiosaurs. Plesiosaurs were ocean-dwelling reptiles that lived all the way back in the early Jurassic period about 215 million to 65.5 million years ago. They lived in the waters around what is today Europe, Australia, North America, and Asia. In the Pacific Ocean, these had flippers that they used to paddle through the water, and also had long necks and small heads in comparison to the rest of their body. The creatures all breathed air, and it's thought that the plesiosaur might have actually made nests on the beach to lay their eggs in much the same way that sea turtles do, but there's also a thought that they may have given birth to live young. The jury is still out on that one. Some paleontologists have even speculated that their long necks allowed them to sneak up on schools of fish, striking with lightning speed before their prey could react. Ancient artwork and folklore from different cultures have sometimes depicted creatures resembling plesiosaurs, fueling legends of sea monsters for centuries. Their fossils have been found with stomach stones, called gastroliths, which may have helped them digest their food or control their buoyancy. It's wild to imagine these graceful giants gliding through prehistoric seas, their silhouettes casting eerie shadows on the ocean floor. But it seems that the plesiosaur fed on fish and other marine life in the oceans, and they could also grow to be as small as 7 feet long and as long as 50 feet long. Number 1. Liopluridon. This enormous sea-dwelling predator was a terrifying creature. The Liopluridon stalked the seas during the mid to late Jurassic period, which was around 160 to 155 million years ago, so it's fairly safe to say that the monster is no longer with us, measuring a gigantic 82 feet long. The marine reptile was a fearsome predator. It had a long nose, flippers, and rows of dangerously sharp teeth that were like needles. The sheer size of the monster meant that very few other sea dwellers, if any, would have been safe from the animal. Even massive prehistoric sea crocodiles, ichthyosaurs, and other pliosaurs would have struggled to defend themselves against one of these nightmare creatures. Imagine the shadow it would cast as it glided silently beneath the waves, sending schools of fish scattering in every direction. Some scientists believe its sense of smell was so keen, it could track wounded prey from miles away, making escape nearly impossible. Fossil evidence even suggests that Liopluridon may have engaged in epic underwater battles with rivals over territory or mates, leaving behind scars on their massive skulls. With jaws that could snap through bone like it was nothing, it's no wonder this beast ruled its domain. In fairness, they were omnivorous, but that wouldn't have stopped them from carrying out carnage on the regular rather than nibbling sedately on a tasty piece of sea lettuce. That wraps up our deep dive into the fascinating and sometimes terrifying world of prehistoric sea creatures. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Don't forget to check out the other awesome videos popping up on your screen, and I'll catch you in the next one.